Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about Xbox versus PlayStation because the CEO of Xbox, Phil Spencer, just did two very long interviews where he talked about the idea of the future of Xbox, the future of hardware, the fact that Xbox has made some mistakes, and most importantly, the fact that everything that Microsoft Gaming has already done or will do in the future is now coming officially to other consoles. He even said he's excited to be putting games onto the Nintendo Switch 2 and the PlayStation 5, which means that really everything is now on the table. Starfield, Halo, Gears of War, Forza, Flight Simulator, futuristic games like the next Elder Scrolls, those are coming to the PlayStation 5 and will probably look better on the PlayStation 5 Pro. But I wanted to talk about this because this technically came out on Friday night, and I waited to discuss it because I kind of wanted to see the reactions to it. And I have to admit that maybe it's just my particular bubble, but it does seem like people are at least claiming to be very excited about this. A lot of historically Xbox fanboy types are saying, okay, I still get these games on Game Pass. I'm still playing it on my Xbox, so I'm still happy to be in that ecosystem. And now other people can pay $70 for it, which means the next sequel is going to have an even bigger budget. So I support this. I've also noticed a lot of typically Sony pony types are saying, well, secretly I've been curious about Halo because I've never played it, or I do want to try Starfield. It feels like everybody is oddly positive about this, or at least claiming to be oddly positive about, well, fully third-party Microsoft. But let's talk and let's take a look at some quotes, because I do feel like the full implications of these interviews, it isn't fully realized yet, but it's getting bad. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So, the two interviews are one that was done by Destin Legary and the other one was done by Paris Lilly. Now, we're going to take a look at quotes from both, but let's start with the one by Destin Legary because this is one that people seem to be really chewing up, which is the fact that directly at one point, Destin just said, can you confirm that we're going to be keeping Starfield where it's at? Will Starfield stay as a PC and Xbox exclusive, at least for a while? And he said, no, I'm not going to promise that. I'm not making any promises anymore. And what's interesting is that Phil Spencer actually followed up with this very long kind of rant about the idea that exclusivity is no longer as necessary, as important, as mandatory as it used to be. And I find this to be such an interesting debate that just keeps coming up because I feel like only the Xbox side of the fence, only Team Green is talking about how unimportant exclusives are. Like when you look at this, Halo, we've got Master Chief, we've got Mario, and we have Ellie from The Last of Us. And I almost feel like, well, I do feel provably that consoles are sold by exclusives, but not just the current exclusives. It's about the promise of exclusives, right? About when you buy a Nintendo Switch, it's, okay, you already have this many good games, and we're going to keep getting another Mario, another Mario Kart, another Mario Party, another Mario Goes Shopping. When you buy a PlayStation, you're like, okay, I'm going to get another Gears of War. I'm going to get another God of War. I'm going to get another Last of Us. So I feel like one of the things that's very strange is that when Xbox starts to say that, yes, you're going to keep getting games, but we don't know when they're going to come out. We don't know how long they're going to be. We don't know how long they're going to be good. You know, you're going to get some Redfalls. You're going to get some Hellblade 2s mixed in with some actually good games like Indiana Jones, but you can also buy them other places. I feel like only Xbox is claiming that exclusives are unimportant when it feels like to everybody else, these are the backbone of a good system. Now, I wanted to talk a lot more about this and say, one of the things that's funny to me is that I think it's interesting that really it does seem to me, maybe it's projection, it really does seem like Phil Spencer in these clips I've been seeing, he really does seem to be actually excited about this next pivot, about the idea of putting their games everywhere, about having the biggest audience ever for the next Halo, the biggest audience ever for the next Gears of War, the biggest audience ever for if they ever did a Minecraft 2. It's interesting that maybe it is cope, but it does seem like Xbox is excited to have, I don't know, a bigger audience than they've ever had. Now, I will say that some people are kind of projecting. I did see probably hundreds of tweets claiming that Destin Legarie is mad about these answers. I don't think he is. I think Destin Legarie is just being a good interviewer here. This is part of his Patreon show, so if you like his stuff, you can go check out his Patreon. But the other interview that Phil Spencer did was talking to Danny Pena and Paris Lilly about kind of the state of Xbox and what they've been doing, like how they funded Ninja Gaiden 4 and stuff like that. But here's the part that kind of stuck out to me, which is that I have been predicting that there won't be another Xbox, or if there is another Xbox, it's coming to an end. The entire Xbox console ecosystem is kind of running out of road. But I'm beginning to kind of change that prediction. I am starting to think that Xbox will continue to exist as a physical box, at least for a while. In fact, there have been talks from Phil Spencer, from other people, that they are talking about letting other people make Xboxes, letting other companies make their own version and slap an Xbox sticker on it. And that seems to me a bit weird because, if anything, I do feel like the biggest thing that has hurt the Xbox brand this generation is the Xbox Series S. Is that right now, if you want to put a game onto PlayStation, if you're a developer putting something onto the PlayStation, there's one SKU. It just has to run on the base model of PlayStation 5. And if you want to, you can choose to make a PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced patch, right? But if you're putting a game onto the Xbox, a lot of developers have publicly said that one of the hard things about it is that it has to run just as well on the Xbox Series X as it does on the Xbox Series S. You can give up some frame rate or some resolution and stuff, but they have to have the exact same gameplay. Like, at its core, it has to be the same game. That makes sense, right? But I've seen a lot of developer stuff saying, okay, if this console has sold 75 million consoles and the people buy a lot of games and I could port a game once, I'm going to dedicate my passion to that. I'm going to put all my best coders, my porters and stuff. I'm going to make sure it runs as best as possible on the PS5 because that's where it's going to be selling, right? If it looks better there, if it's poppier in a trailer, if it shows up in a state of play, I'll make my money back. Whereas if I optimize for 2 years to get it barely running on an Xbox Series S, I might not even sell 10,000 copies, right? I'm being a bit bleak there, but it basically, this quote here is interesting to me, where Phil Spencer said, "Box is our brand name. Our hardware is fundamental to what Xbox is. On future Xbox hardware, we want our Xbox hardware to win based on the hardware capabilities we have." Now, I think this is their signal about the fact that the next Xbox is obviously in development. There's also a bunch of leaks we've talked about here on the channel about the PlayStation 6 is in full-blown development. But it's interesting to me that this quote here seems a bit weird, where he says, creators more and more want their games to be access to as many players as possible, and Xbox wants to allow that. Now, when we typically talk about creators, we mean streamers, we mean YouTubers and stuff, but when he uses it, he means the people making the games, the creators of the art we love. And I do think this is true. I do think that they're probably telling him, hey, we want more juice. We want the next Xbox to be a big, beefy boy. So even if we end up selling less than the next PlayStation or selling less than the Nintendo Switch 2, developers will still be excited to put the game on our console because it'll have the best graphics. We can put it in trailers. We can finally say, hey, here's the potential of the world we've made. Now, I have seen some people saying, okay, why is it that even though the Xbox isn't selling, why is it that Team Green is still so obsessed with making sure they don't just say the words, Xbox is dead, go buy our games on other systems? Like, even in the interviews, there was a lot of very dodgy talk. Clearly, Phil Spencer is being told not to say, buy our games on PlayStation. He doesn't want that soundbite to exist. A lot of times he doesn't even say PlayStation. It says Sony. We're working with Sony. Same with the Nintendo Switch 2. A lot of times he says, I'm sending emails to the president of Nintendo. He doesn't talk about the excitement for the Nintendo Switch 2. And I think a lot of it does come down to the fact that they are afraid of fully relinquishing the holds on the Xbox. They're afraid to let go of it because 85% of Game Pass users currently are still on console. And I think this is a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's a good thing because it does show the fact that the marketing has worked, that the Xbox fan base still realizes Game Pass is a good deal. You don't have to pay for your games. I get it. But I do think it kind of signals the fact that I think Microsoft is getting a bit afraid that they do have a tiny pool of players. There's rumors they've sold, 30 million Xbox Series consoles. That's not very much. So they have less than half, almost a third as many as the PlayStation 5. And they're not able to advertise to people outside that tiny pool. Clearly, they're not activating PC gamers to put the Xbox app onto their thing and subscribe to PC Game Pass. Clearly, that marketing has not been as effective as they probably hoped. But the other thing is that I've noticed a lot of people kind of chronicling how interesting it is watching the last 4 years of Phil Spencer interviews, where he talks about the fact that, hey, we're just trying to be the biggest, best console maker we can. Our platform is all that matters. We only want to have the best Xbox. We love our exclusives. Our exclusives are the best. We're going to beat them in the pit at exclusives. And then eventually they started to say, well, maybe some games will be multi-platform. We're doing these 4 games and nothing else. Well, maybe we'll do some other games. Okay, every single game is coming to everything else. I see some people kind of mocking Phil Spencer, and I don't think that's warranted. I think that Phil Spencer is working in tandem with the creators, with the Xbox developers, with the people at Microsoft to try and make sure that Microsoft can keep making games. I am a big believer in the fact that obviously a lot of these projects that are being at least partially funded, like Overdose, it's this like upcoming horror game by Hideo Kojima. It seems like that is being funded by Microsoft. So it's going to be basically they're trying to make their own spooky Death Stranding, in that it is a Kojima game that will be an exclusive. This kind of stuff, I think that PlayStation has been doing a good job of selling systems, about selling games, about selling third party and first party on their console. Xbox is in a spot now where if they're funding this kind of stuff, I'm appreciative because that means we're getting more games because of Xbox. But I think a lot of people are starting to say, okay, nothing can afford to take exclusive. I do think that in this industry where studios keep closing, if Microsoft does the math and says, okay, Gears of War E-Day has to be ported to the PlayStation. We need to see the next Doom ported to PlayStation. We need Fable ported to PlayStation. That's the only way we can keep making games. Maybe I'm being overly accepting of this, but I think I'm at a spot where whatever it takes to keep good in games, I think I'm in a spot now where I want studios to keep making the art they love. I want to see Todd Howard keep making games until he retires. I want to see Shigeru Miyamoto make games until the second he walks out of the studio. I want every single developer to just keep making the stuff that they're passionate about. Even if they got to go third party, even if they got to do weird stuff, even if they got to put it over here, do whatever. I'm just happy that Microsoft is, in their own way, trying to find a way to be profitable, even if it's not the typical vision we would imagine. Now, this statement came out literally right as I was pissing record, which is that People Can Fly, who made the very worst Gears of War. If you ever played Gears of War Judgment, my God, that game is just, it's wet dog shit in a fucking Dixie cup. But why am I swearing? Okay, anyways, they made the worst Gears of War. They're apparently helping with the development of Gears of War E-Day. I'm taking this as, and a lot of people are taking this as, a signal that they're putting this onto the PlayStation 5 Pro, that this is a port. But I am excited to see how this actually turns out. I am in a spot of morbid curiosity. If they start putting every Xbox game day and date onto the PlayStation 5, onto PC, onto the Nintendo Switch 2, and they notice that it's selling 10 times more copies on the other systems, does Xbox reprioritize? Does Xbox get rid of Game Pass? I think that's the question I have in my mind now. It's no longer, can Xbox afford to do this? How long will Xbox live? I think the amount of rope that is left for Xbox to hang on to has dwindled significantly. But I'm getting to a point where how long can they keep up Game Pass? That's what I'm keeping an eye on from now on. But tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. 3 days to surgery. 3 days to surgery. I'm afraid. I'm not going to lie. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.